Guys, this is Crypto with James talking to you today about Bitcoin. We are still in early days of Bitcoin, and I'm going to show what someone has made a phenomenal chart and trading view that I want to share. Just sort of logging the moments that have happened across Bitcoin since its inception. And I'll look at particularly the last couple of years and look at what's to come, because we are still such early days of Bitcoin. Before I do, as always, I get into the spreadsheet. These are the first 26 coins I spoke about on the channel that I thought would crush it in this cycle. If you invested $100 into each one when I released the videos and you were still holding all that crypto, you'd be in profit for over 56 grand. This is not what I hold anymore. You want to see what I hold, come check out Copy My Crypto. It's where I share my portfolio. We've had an incredible 2021, and I'm really excited for 2022, whether it's bull or bear cycle things. There are so many opportunities in this market. The bear cycle is the best opportunity, and that is a fact. You can find cryptos at discount prices with huge room for growth. I can't wait for a bear cycle. I've got a list of coins I'm watching, see how they onboard, see how they develop, see what partners they get, all these factors that I'll be watching out for. When I think they can 50x, 100x, 200x, I'm going to be sharing them with Copy My Crypto members. So if you want to be a part of it, check it out. Right. This was made, I should definitely give props to whoever made this. I don't know who made it. There is a very, very good video. Anyway, this is a timeline of the history of Bitcoin. So it's really worth noting where we're at, right? Well, where we started. So I'm literally going to go back to sort of last year, right? So, actually in February, we saw Warren Buffett get his first Bitcoin. Then we saw the coronavirus hit hit crypto on March the 6th. It followed that across the next 6 days, the more Bitcoin in particular dumped about 50% of its value in 6 days. Then we started getting Bitcoin predictions to double in April, where it regained pretty much all the ground that it lost. And then the third halving began. The third halving happened in May of May 11th, and we started seeing a rise in prices. We saw Bitcoin traders dominating the market. We started seeing good news for US banks, and again, you can click and you can see what they're saying. So US banks could now hold Bitcoin on behalf of their clients. That was a big moment, and we saw that around July 22nd in 2020, and we saw the following sort of 6 days Bitcoin rise in price by a sort of solid 20%, which is obviously pretty good for Bitcoin. We started seeing congressmen getting very confident on Bitcoin. We started seeing Jack Dorsey coming out and saying that Bitcoin was going to be the future of Twitter. Obviously, he's since decided that Bitcoin is going to be very much the future of his company Block now. Bitcoin reached 88% capacity, so that was when Bitcoin miners who created more than 88% of the total Bitcoin supply, and that came out in around September or back end of September. Then we just started seeing that run of big news where it was PayPal accepting Bitcoin, and that all of a sudden spurned on over the course of the next few days some positive price action. We saw Bitcoin up 100% on the year on the 5th of November, and again we continued to climb, and we finally reached 20k around December. Then it reached 26k, which was again a fairly big moment. Or that was the next target point rather. It broke the 40k barrier right on January 8th, and then we started seeing downward pressure. We started seeing the Elon Musk effect. He started saying that he started adding the Bitcoin hashtag on his Twitter profile, and we saw Bitcoin gain around 11% that day. We started seeing Tesla tapping into Bitcoin, started accepting and it was a matter of time before they started accepting Bitcoin. It only took about a month after that, or 2 months after that. And we saw all of these things, these massive moments. TradingView launching a Satoshi index. I loved that. Musk sending Bitcoin back up after, and that was May the 25th when he started saying that he isn't done with Bitcoin, and we saw a 12% rally. And we saw downward momentum throughout 2021, the summer of, and we started seeing the SEC starting to crap on the markets. We also saw Binance the Binance ban, in the UK. That had a real big impact on Bitcoin as well. Delta variant feeds crypto crash fears, but what that ended up doing was confirming another wave of money printing. And while we saw the huge run down, that was actually the bottom of the summer. And again, we started seeing the bounce back. We started seeing El Salvador making history, being the first country to adopt crypto. We saw Bitcoin retake 51k. We saw the ETF the Bitcoin ETF stuff start coming through. Ethereum ones start coming through in terms of discussions and futures. And again, like I said, this is a really good little chart. It's worthwhile keeping an eye on these kind of things, these moments in time. And right now, the Fed fizzles out crypto recovery. That was quite literally Jerome Powell's negative statement about the markets. But the market's actually continued rising, so it's been doing okay. Now, the reason I say we're at the beginning is there's still so much to come. Case in point, first thing, we have another halving on the 28th, roughly the 28th of March 2024. Now, there is a fair discussion to be had for does the halving have an impact? Because I think there's probably a level of diminishing returns for the impact that a halving has as well as time goes on, because it's less impactful. At the start, when you have a halving and the amount being mined is so massive, a halving has a huge impact. But at this point, so few percentage-wise are being created each year that a halving doesn't actually have as big an impact. And there is a discussion there, because does that then affect the prices less? I would expect so. We've got elements of the SEC and Bitcoin's ETF standoff. They are just outright refusing to accept a spot ETF. And I think, that's going to last a little bit, but inevitably they will end up accepting a spot ETF at some point. It might take, a couple of years. SEC are very, very anti-spot market. Their sort of key point revolves around the fact that while market abuse and fraud remain rampant, they're not going to approve any spot ETF. Although they don't seem to have a problem with spot ETFs in general, just with regards to Bitcoin and crypto, because apparently there's far more market abuse in crypto than there is in stocks and commodities. Interesting. But this is down the line. It's going to happen because fundamentally you can't invest you shouldn't be able to invest in the future of based on speculation about the future of an asset if you can't invest on the underlying asset. It doesn't make sense. So that will happen, but it's really a matter of time. Then you've got, and you've also got Cathie Wood. Bloody thing. Cathie Wood is now trying to push for a Bitcoin ETF. That's again. The likelihood of a spot ETF being done in the next 6 months is pretty bloody slim. And another big thing that people have to realize is the level of money that will come into the market with regulation. Russia government, they're not going to ban it, they're going to regulate it. They don't want to ban crypto, they want to regulate it, they get more tax. Simple, right? Same principle with America. They want to introduce more regulation for crypto does lead to higher taxes, or certainly higher tax income for the government themselves. And then what we will see is bigger institutions start entering positions in crypto. We've got 10 massive companies like MicroStrategy have obviously bought a ton of Bitcoin. Tesla have got a ton of it. Galaxy Digital Holdings have got a massive amount of it. Voyager Digital Holdings have got a lot of it. Block, formerly Square, they have a ton of it as well. But Jack Dorsey, we know he's very bullish on Bitcoin. Marathon Digital Holdings have a ton of it. They also have an enormous amount of mining rigs. I think they're the biggest miners in the world now. And then, there's a few more. Coinbase, obviously, Riot Blockchain, Bitcoin Group. Now, the reason I show this and the reason I refer to the regulation is that fundamentally businesses, institutions will get into crypto. They're always looking for opportunities. I don't know how many people have seen this recently, but the huge rise in house prices that we're seeing across UK and the US in particular, it was around about 11% since the year has started. First month, they've risen faster in the UK than any time since 2005. And the thing is that people will look at that news and go, "Oh, that's brilliant for me. I'm a homeowner," or "Oh, that's crap for me. I want to be a homeowner." But it's not retail that's making as big an impact on the market as you'd think. It's not me and you. It's not the regular people. Companies are buying houses. It used to be that you could not buy a house for retail purposes, for single family purposes, if you were a homeowner, if you were a company. Now they've got, mortgage-backed securities. This industry has turned into a $60 billion industry where these huge institutions are buying houses or buying properties, whether it's commercial or rental or whatever, and they are earning money hand over fist from this. As a regular person, you can invest in these mortgage-backed securities, by the way. Now, what ends up happening, and they're using that because what they've got is that ton of equity. They can take out equity to buy these properties, and as they rise in price, and they're causing the rise in price, they're banking money. And the reason I bring this up is that's to a degree what we will see in terms of crypto. We will see a huge swarm of investment from these massive institutions, because if they are seeing an opportunity to get in on something that they're not in on, that's going to make them profit, they will do it. By the way, mortgage-backed securities shouldn't, like weighted housing, effectively almost like ETFs, but these weighted housing investments weren't even a thing that long ago. They created it. They created this new concept to invest in so that they could make more money. So what happens when there's regulation on crypto is they get in. It'll be the same principle. The more houses you own long term, the more money you make. The more Bitcoin you own long term, the more money you will have. The more gold you have long term, the more money you will have as a long term perspective. And it's worthwhile bearing that in mind, because while there has been a ton of adoption this year, over the past couple of years, in terms of seeing these companies buying like mad, we're nowhere close. We're nowhere close to the level of investment from institutions that we will see once regulation comes in. Regulation will inevitably lead to more institutions coming in. And there's problems, there's positives and negatives there. Long term, the positive is the assets in general will appreciate. Of course, there will be ones that go to zero, but the top tier projects will appreciate in value over time. That's inevitable. The downside is you're going to have more market manipulation to some degree, because they will play around with the markets more because they can. You'll also see a situation where it's going to be harder and harder and harder for your average person to get hold of even fractions of Bitcoins down the line, because it will be more beneficial for them to be massive whales. You know, in the same way that right now a normal person can really struggle to get on the housing market, right? It'll be the same principle with Bitcoin, but it will be to a degree of I can't even get. I'm gonna struggle to get a tenth of a Bitcoin. I'm gonna struggle to get a fifth of the Bitcoin when these institutions are rocking. This is what I mean. We're at the start still. We're nowhere close to where we could be down the line. You know, spot ETFs will come down. You know, that's probably going to take a couple of years. We're going to see heavier rate once regulations in, huge institutional adoption. Once we see the halving as well, we'll see the level of impact, although I do believe in a level of diminished returns off of that now. I don't think that's going to have the impacts that one used to believe it would. Well, that it used to have. But something like this, guys, if you are new to this market, to whoever made this chart, and it must be someone specifically made it, but this chart is fantastic and it's worthwhile utilizing it, because it's literally just, you can type in history of Bitcoin USD on Google and you'll get it. Okay, and it is wonderful because what you do is you can keep an eye on how markets move. You can keep an eye on the events that occur that push and move a market in both positive and negative directions. It gives you insight as to what's next. You know, really, really useful. Really, really useful. So I'd keep an eye on this, have it saved somewhere. Because if you're going to stay in this market for the next few years, knowing how the market reacted to events gives you a insight as to what's next. And it's useful. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you're all keeping really well. If you're new to crypto, or even if you've been in crypto for ages, come check out Copy My Crypto. We had an incredible 2021, and I cannot tell you the excitement for 2022. Bear cycle, bull cycle, it's going to be great. But bear cycle, the coins, the retracements that we'll see, the opportunities that will be there will be unbelievable. There will legitimately be opportunities to make tons and tons and tons of gains. I keep an eye on so many coins that I think have huge potential in it across the next cycle, and I'm watching how they move and everything they're going to do over the next couple of years. And when there's an opportunity to invest at 50 and get 50x, 100x, 200x, whatever, I'm going to be screaming them to my members. So if you want to be a part of it, click on the link in the description and check it out. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.